Kate Miller's heart and soul are driven by a desire to create love and transformation for all searching hearts. She holds degrees in counseling, a ministerial degree, and is a certified life mastery teacher and a published author of 2 books and poetry. She's also a speaker on the topics of healing and forgiveness and has won awards both locally and nationally for her work. She now dedicates her life to creating deep and healing work through prayer art and sharing its mission with the world. Prayer art is a light in the darkness, a lamp to one's path. At the end of Kate's book, Inspirational Parenting, she describes what her dream job would be: to go around the world, hugging every person I meet, assuring them that they are not alone, they have a great value, and the world needs them. And she believes prayer art is a way of carrying out this mission. Well, welcome, Kate, to our show, Living Regret Free. And I am sure that if you went around the world hugging every person and assuring them they weren't alone, they would feel they had great value and that the world needed them. So, how are you today?
I'm so well. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I'm just thrilled to be here.
Well, prayer art is not a normal term. People have not really heard that. So, tell us, how did it begin?
Well, it's very interesting. If someone would have told me that I would be creating art, I would have just fallen over laughing, actually. I never really felt I had great skills at art. But, my life has been dedicated to working with people, and I've always taught people to ask a really good question. To ask a rich question, you get a rich answer. So I was speaking with a friend of mine, this was some time ago, and she asked me a great question. She said, Kate, if you weren't doing what you do, being a life coach, what would you do? And I said, I have not a clue what I would do. She said, well, you have 48 hours to come up with an answer. So I thought that was a great question, and I thought, and I remembered in years and years ago when I was establishing a brand in marketing that I was told to find out what is truly at the core of who you are, to find 3 or 4 things in your life that you cannot live without. So I went there. I looked around my house and I collected all these things, and I ended up about 24 hours later with 3 different little piles of things at the end of my bed. And one of them was my metaphysical books, and one of them were pictures of my family from the time my children were babies till now. And the third thing was this beautiful chandelier that I had made, that I was shocked that I could make, actually. But I just loved it, and it was a real challenge. And so it represented all this light and beauty. So I looked at these piles of things, and I thought, what are those? What really are those? And my metaphysical books, represented a faith that I was born with. And I thought, I can't live without those. I have to have those. And I looked at the pictures of my family, and especially my children's baby pictures, and I thought about, being a pregnant teenage mom and how hard that was, and how hard I had fought to rise above those judgments and to really make something of my life so that I could be of service and to demonstrate that to my children. And then I looked at this chandelier, and I looked around my house, and all the light, the little twinkly lights that I have, and beautiful things, the gifts that I've been given, and I have many, many beautiful angels that have been given to me over the course of the years. And I thought, well, my books represent God. They represent a spirit that's greater than I. My pictures represented courage, and then I thought, no, they represent more than courage. That took grit. That took a lot of hard work and belief to rise above those challenges. And then the rest was just sparkly stuff. And all of a sudden I went, I'm God, grit, and glitter. And I thought, oh my gosh. So when my friend asked me, what would you do if you weren't, being a life coach full time and working in that aspect of your life? I thought, I would make something beautiful. I would make something that glittered and shined, and so I started working on a piece of art. And I just fell in love with the whole concept. And I thought to myself, I made a piece of art for someone with a specific need. They had a daughter that had been divorced, and she was a lovely, lovely girl. And so I made this beautiful angel gazebo, and as I was writing it, I was thinking of her. So I wrote a prayer to support the thoughts that had come to me during that time. And at the end of this piece of art that was made and this prayer, I said, I'm sitting here and it's like I'm creating art and I'm praying at the same time. And just bingo, I thought, this is prayer art. And that's how this little company was born.
Wow, that's that's really something. First of all, there's a couple of lessons in there. Number one, you were a life coach, and someone coached you to find your other answer. And I'm a firm believer that everybody needs a coach and that coaches need coaches. So I just want to get that message out to people who are listening that don't think because you are a coach, you don't need a coach. You probably need one more than anyone. And to keep you sharp and to keep you, vital and to keep you discovering. And the second part is that sometimes there are things deep within us that we have no knowledge are even there until we try. And that's what you did. You tried. And so your inspiration behind the art was your observation of everything you had been through, your observation of other people, and then you created your first piece of art for someone who was very near and dear to you and who you appreciated. So I think that's a key. So the question becomes, what's your why? Why do you create prayer art? I mean, do people appreciate it? Do they know what it is? I was at a program where you had displayed your prayer art, and it was quite beautiful, and people were interested in it. Do people really understand it?
I believe that the understanding comes with, well, yes, they do understand it. I've always been able to explain it and give the little story that I just shared with you. But my why is because once I connected with that creativity in me, I felt like that was exactly what I was supposed to do. And I agree, all teachers need teachers. As you stated, we never, ever, ever do I want to stop learning by those who have walked, before me in greater steps. And so my why about prayer art is I just have to do it. It's what lights me up, and I've seen, after I created that first piece, that piece was shown to someone, and within the next week I had 9 orders. And I did nothing but create a piece of art that I made for someone to help them heal. And so when I got that feeling and I started creating these pieces of art by special order, like, someone called me up and told me a really beautiful story about their mother. And so I made this piece of art and then the prayer that I wrote with it. And it just ended up, the why of it is because it's just so alive inside of me that I know it's what's right to do.
Well, fantastic. That is absolutely great. Well, okay, let's go on from there and say to you, because since nobody really understands if they haven't seen it, how long does it take to create a special order piece? And what does that mean? Because I assume you're not just creating in general, or do you do in general and
Right.
then also create special order pieces?
Right. I have both. Once I started, selling prayer art, I have beautiful fairy cottages and angel gazebos, and I wrote prayers for all of them, and it was like a universal way so that people could actually order them. And on the website that we're actually rebuilding a website right now, people can go on and read prayers, and if one of them jumps out at them, they can take that prayer and use it and print it out and order a piece that kind of just touches them. But when I work a piece of art, it takes about 2 days to put it all together, and it's just such a joy. And as I've been a transitional life coach for so many years, I studied deeply into the metaphysics and the teachings with great mentors, and I just think that when I create a piece, for a personal story, I can go to this place of listening so deeply for guidance from me, and I grow from it. And as I create, I write the thoughts that come to my heart, and I write them as a prayer to accompany this piece. And it's just a very touching, beautiful, symbolic image for this person to have. And that's the most wonderful piece of it, that the inspiration from the piece of art, if you go to a lecture and you become inspired, which I love to give lectures and attend lectures, and you get inspired, but then I believe that you need to be able to maintain that. And prayer art is symbolic for representing an inspiration or a turning point in someone's life. And so that it takes about 2 days to do an individual piece, sometimes more, sometimes less, usually more. So to answer that question.
So what type of occasions have people purchased prayer art for?
I have people who have purchased prayer art for weddings, so in other words, they might tell me about their relationship and that they want something to represent that relationship. And so I would make a beautiful piece of prayer art for that. And so when they tell me about the relationship, I write what comes to me, and it turns into this beautiful poetic message. I have done prayer art for one of my favorite prayer art requests is for the fairy houses that I make, that because there are lights on everything that I do, I don't do any art that doesn't light up. And so children and young people that are having, maybe problems with a fear of the dark or something like that, will order a piece for me, and it's just kind of magical what happens when they turn it on and these lights come out. So I make a lot of fairy houses for things for children and even young, not just children. I have many adults that love fairy houses, and so weddings and personal, little personal understandings that people are trying to get through. I have an angel gazebo that is called the Giving Angel, and people have purchased her and given her to someone that's, trying to hold on to a dream or work through something. And the words that go with her are how the universe is just waiting to give us our every desire. And so there's just so, yeah.
Do they have a religious connotation to them, or can it be appropriate for any religion anywhere?
It's any religion anywhere. Absolutely, yeah. And you can personalize things like that for people with their requests, but prayer art is it's a universal reaching out with a mission, and the mission, the word mission means to carry out a calling or to spread faith or to share inspiration. And that's what these do. They just bring inspiration and they share hope. And but there's no religious background per se, a religion based on prayer art, no.
Well, that's great, because this opens up so many other opportunities for you and for people who are interested in this. This would be a tremendous gift, I would think, for someone to give someone else. I mean, I don't think it's something that people would, would necessarily think of. I mean, I've never heard. You're the only person I know that does this. So is this affordable? Is this something that the average person could afford to have created?
Yes, it's very affordable. Oh, yes. Uh-huh. And, my prayer art ranges, in the between $75 and $150. And so I always keep it at a place where someone can afford. That's really important to me.
So when you're creating a piece of art, do people ask you to keep it confidential, or is there any? I mean, what do people say when they contact you? I mean, is this something they want other people to know about, or is it something they want to keep secretive?
Right. I have clients who share very personal stories with me, and I think, coming from a counseling background,